Welcome to the Little Johnny Chronicles number 27. I'm sorry, we're on number 28. This is the Darkness series, episode 7, Threading the Tears Together. I've been having this discussion about the scale of darkness that I've developed. I'm sure it's been done in a million different ways. Give me 1 second. I'm sure it's been done in a million different ways. This is probably not nothing new, but this is just my fun project, something fun to do for myself. I don't know why I got on this path. I have like a bunch of outlines and bullshit that I've developed. Cause I like to write. I've been doing that for a long time. I don't know if my stories are worth the shit, but this is, of course, my attempt to cast out a net and see if it's interesting, if I can catch people's attention. I think I shared this little graphic the other day. Kind of outlines the tiers, right? Tier 3 is on the bottom, tier 2 is in the middle, and tier 1 is on the top. Of course, it's blank. We're going to fill those out as we go. And I'm going to try to use this visual aid. It's not very good. I'm horrible at this so far, but it still serves a purpose. Part of the scale of darkness is the escalation, severity, and the impact. And of course, as you climb the scale, the worse it gets for people. So I'm going to try to tie tier 3 to tier 2 and demonstrate how easy it is to just simply be a troll. And next thing you know, you're on tier 1 as a murderer. And the dark, here we go. Here's my other little graphic, right? This is where we operate. This represents us as a person. We're two parts, and we become a whole with those two parts, right? And we're part of the light and the dark. So part of doing better with our own lives is simply understanding that fact. And so today I will correlate tier 3 to tier 2, and then in the next episode we'll move on to more criminals. I don't know what the next category is. Let's see. I don't want to share that with you yet. We'll talk about that some other day. All right. I want to take some time to ensure we are understanding how the scale of darkness works and how the idea of escalation works. The initial behavior provides the gateways for worse behavior. I would like to discuss a couple of examples that will weave tier 3 and tier 2 together. So we're going to see how behavior down here climbs to here, and here, right? This is group 6, group 5, and group 4 in this category. And once we've exhausted this category, will be at the top group there, right? This is evil as hell. We'll simply jump to the category 2 in tier 2, which is way more evil than plain ass criminals. Staying on tier 2, where we have 3 major categories, we began with the lowest level category called plain-ass criminals. This category is exactly what it states. Plain-ass criminals in the form of whatever your imagination of a regular criminal is. There are 6 groups in the plain-ass criminals category, and beginning at the bottom with the 6th group called community criminals. We moved up the 5th grouping called immoral criminals and climbed up to the next rung of the scale of darkness to the 4th group called vandals. Briefly describing tier 3, which is lower on the scale of darkness, we began with trolls, addicts, opportunists, and finally we discussed the 7 deadly sins. All the behavior related to the actors and characters in tier 3 are gateways, behaviors or seeds that create worse types of crime and elevates people into higher tiers. So the point there is, as we start on tier 3 and act out there, our behavior just leads us to worse behavior. Now that we have discussed some of the elements of both tier 3 and tier 2, let's thread the needle of escalation. Let's start by asking, what common thread can we find between the two lower tiers, Remember that this is an exercise in understanding the characters that are being described in tier 3 and 2 in order to identify these character traits and behaviors in our own individual lives. Each character describes the what. What is the action being taken, and does it describe your behavior, to describe my behavior? Though this sounds like some sort of judgment, The real intent here is to identify with people wherever they reside on the scale of darkness by meeting them where they are at. We use their language to influence them to abandon deviant behavior in favor of more benevolent deeds, which serve both the individual and the greater good. The idea here is that through better behavior, quote unquote better behavior, people can improve the long-term trajectory of their lives and at the same time the long-term prospects for any children and generations that may follow them, and in turn create a net gain for society at large. So here's the individual hopefully choosing to adopt better behavior in order to improve their life, improve the life of the people that come after them, their children, their grandchildren, etc. And just as a positive byproduct, collectively make a better society, whether it's in your town, your state, your country, the planet, etc. All right, let's correlate some tier 3 characters to some of the actors described in tier 2. How does a tier 3 troll evolve or escalate into a tier 1 or tier 2 entity? The answer is very quickly. We're all susceptible to falling victim to our beliefs. The pro-choice, pro-life advocate simply states a fact. I am pro-choice or I am pro-life. Writing that statement on a sign at a protest is not yet behavior that places any person on the troll spectrum, tier 3, right? That's where it starts, as a troll. And so going to a protest and stating your opinion or a fact or whatever isn't trolling behavior, you're just stating a position. It is when the words pro-choice, pro-life turn into you're a baby murderer or you're anti-science that the trolling begins, because that's just an argument for the sake of argument. This is the initial escalation in verbal salvos that in a short period of time turns into direct, intimate confrontation in the form of people yelling at each other. And so we've all seen this, right? You got the protests and the chants, and here we go, right? We've got the trolling signs and our trolling behavior, and now we're yelling at each other, and that's the threat of violence that's beginning. This is the initial escalation of verbal salvos that in a short period of time turn into direct, intimate confrontation in the form of people yelling at each other. In no time at all, these heated exchanges may turn into damaging other people's signage or clinics, vandalism, and that's in tier 2. So we're already going from a troll to vandalism, which is in tier 2, to physical altercations, assault, which is way higher in tier 2. We haven't even started discussing those people yet, to potentially murder. And of course, that's tier 1. And so let's keep going. All those specific criminal actions are mentioned because it is a fact that some of those crimes have been committed in support of either a pro-life or pro-choice stance. I did not know until today that those crimes committed by pro-whatever people are considered a form of domestic terrorism. So I didn't know that, but domestic terrorism, obviously terrorism is way high and it's probably tier 1, etc. I guess when the pro-life folks start blasting doctors at the gate of the medical facilities, it is truly a terroristic type of event. Although both sides of the argument climb the scale of darkness all the way to tier 1 through the act of homicide, I could only find evidence of the pro-life people killing anyone over the issue. So pro-life people are the only murders that I could identify there. That's fucking ironic. The gateway to crime related to these types of demonstrations is a departure from the facts of the matter, right? I'm pro-life, I'm pro-choice, or the facts. We move from the fact I'm pro this or pro that to visual hostility in the form of sign trolling, to graffiti, to arson, to physical altercations, which can lead to and has led to murder. Although we have not yet discussed the tier 1 homicidal criminal, the route to that sort of evil behavior is short and swift, as we can observe and occasionally leapfrog tier 2 completely. So you showed up at the rally, you got your sign, somebody says something stupid, you shoot them, or you show up to actually kill the doctor, which is what has happened. And of course, you're a tier 1 criminal. And anyway, that behavior is reprehensible. It's completely negative. It's a negative impact. It's a net loss for everybody, the individual's family, society, etc. We'll now try to correlate another tier 3 subject, the opportunist, to tier 2 characters. So the opportunist is on tier 3, down here, above the addict in tier 3. and and we're gonna go to the DUI guy right here. The lowest level criminal category in Tier 2 is plain ass criminal. Nested under the plain ass criminal category are the community criminals grouping. Community criminals are the lowest grouping in Tier 2 because they mostly embody a nuisance type of persona, while at the same time participating in true criminal activity. From the Tier 3 position of the opportunist, we make the jump to community criminal in the form of the drunk driver. So in this scenario, the DUI guy is in Tier 2, the opportunist is in Tier 3, and the DUI guy is taking the opportunity to do something wrong, and because he or she thinks they're not going to get caught. However, from the Tier 3 position of the opportunist, we make the jump to community criminal in the form of the drunk driver. No drunk driver thinks they will get pulled over or get caught. They're the opportunist. There is seemingly no risk involved. We all know that this is bullshit. Drunk drivers can simply be an obstacle on the road or full-blown homicidal maniacs driving 100 miles per hour on the wrong side of the highway. Look that up. The escalation from the lowest criminal, DUI, drunk driver, in the lowest rung in Tier 2 on the scale of darkness is quick in this scenario as well. To move from a well-intentioned person wanting a few drinks on the way home from a hard day's work to a killer is quick. So I go to the bar after work, I want to have a couple drinks, I'm just going to drive home, and I cream somebody and they die. So I've just committed murder or some sort of homicide, right? It's manslaughter. Who knows how they categorize that? But I went from a regular guy taking the opportunity to drive drunk because I didn't think I was going to get caught, and now I killed somebody. All right. I'm glad that I cannot remember the last time I drove drunk. It is not because I blacked out or anything like that. I simply do not do it anymore. The drunk driver can save a lot of hassle and potentially lives by simply putting a plan together to get home without all the risk of negative consequences that occur when getting behind the wheel intoxicated. And there you go, another Tier 3 to Tier 2 escalation. So you can move from a peaceful protester to a murder, or you can move from a drunk driver to a murder. So an opportunist to a murder, right? You're a troll, you're a protester, then you're a murderer. You're an opportunist, then you're a drunk driver, then you become a murderer. And none of that is intention. Sometimes it's intentioned. However, most of us are not trying to do that. I think we have demonstrated how Tier 3 activity can lead to Tier 2 behavior. I don't think we need to thoroughly correlate the addict in Tier 3 who resorts to vandalism in Tier 2 in order to commit the more serious crime of burglary. We also do not need to correlate any type of depth, the gambler, the pimp, or prostitute in Tier 2, who in the form of lust, gluttony, and greed participate in the 7 deadly sins, which are part of Tier 3, the lower one, to continue to describe how we can get swept up by our decision-making process once we begin to participate in actions related to the scale of darkness. So here's the scale of darkness. It doesn't take long to go from here to here. Here's the escalation, and here's the severity, right? The more severe, the higher you go, and then the more severe, the more impact you have on people. Negative impact, that is. There's no way out. We all have a dark side. This means that we all choose to what degree we want to participate on the scale of evil. Can we all stay confined to Tier 3, the lowest tier? Or must we all dabble at a minimum in Tier 2? So I think I've shared on here where I'm not innocent, right? I'm a hypocrite, I guess, but I've driven drunk, I've assaulted people, I haven't killed anybody, but I wouldn't say I haven't hurt anybody severely. So, I do have some dark parts of my personality. They used to manifest themselves as violence, typically when I was younger. But now that I'm older, one, I didn't get caught, which I'm very fortunate. And if I would have got caught, I probably deserved to get whatever punishment was coming. But I mostly behaved, right? So it wasn't that dark. However, you don't want to participate there if you're young. I'm just telling you. This story is still unraveling. Unfortunately, we cannot have the light without the opposing dark. They are in direct opposition to each other. However, they are related in the fact that they need one another for the other to exist. That leads me to other questions that I will not try to answer here, but I'll discuss briefly. I assume God was aware that by creating the light, he created a union between light and dark. And so we go back to the yin and yang. And you had the dark, right? God said, let there be light. And now you have the dark and the light. I will also assume that knowing these inverses existed, when he created man and woman would need light to see his or her world, both conscious and unconscious world, and consequently required diametrically opposed thought processes so that good could exist. So if there's dark and God creates, so that's evil thought, and God creates light, now there's good thought. You have to have both. They're not mutually exclusive. You have to have both of them. Did God hide, obscure the dark side of man in the tree of knowledge? Was the knowledge of darkness released by an act of disobedience, dark behavior, with action being the key that unlocks the door to darkness? So if you remember the story about Adam and Eve, supposedly the devil talked Eve into eating from the tree of knowledge, and then Eve talked Adam into taking a bite of the apple, and now we know everything, good and bad. And so what I'm trying to say there is the action of doing bad things really the key that unopens and unravels the Pandora's box of the evil aspects or dark aspects of our personality and our soul? And so what I'm trying to say is that does familiarity cause us to dabble more in that type of activity? I cannot say for certain, but what I do know is that in this age, at this time, the dark side and the light are both equal parts of a greater whole. Therefore, we must decide on which spectrum we prefer to operate in. I'll argue that good is better than evil, and the scale of darkness is the metric I'm using to help others come to that conclusion. In reality, it's not the good people I am reaching out to. I'm reaching out to people living on the dark side, and simply making the appeal that they consider that maybe good is more attractive than evil, and that action on the dark side builds momentum that leads to darker and worse behavior. At a minimum, this is a fun project. So I really don't know who's listening, but I hope you enjoy that. We're going to keep working on this. I know this is kind of sloppy, but I think the work is okay. We'll discuss some higher level criminals in the next episode. This episode, I just wanted to sew all that stuff together so we have a demonstration, a clear demonstration of how the tiers are linked and how it takes zero effort to move from trolling behavior, an addict, what's the other one? The opportunist, or the 7 deadly sins, accessing those gateways and then traversing the scale of darkness and moving up really quick. I'll just relist the gateway types. So the troll is a subtle gateway, meaning like trolling behavior seems benign. Nothing can come from it, but that's nonsense. I think that's where it begins, or that's a place for it to begin. And there's 100 ways to view this, but for me, that's where it begins. The addict, the first hard gateway. So, when you get in trouble and you get addicted to something and now you got to get a fix and you're not the type of person who can just afford that type of stuff. It's a first hard gateway because that leads to crime. If you're addicted to something, you have to have it. You're going to find a way to get it, even breaking the law. So it's a first hard gateway into criminality. The opportunist. It's an open gateway. And what I mean there is look at it from the perspective that whatever that temptation is, whether it is to drive drunk or it is to go have sex with a prostitute if she's there trying to attract you, right? Because they're on the street in the lingerie and whatever. you see the attraction, it's a lure, but you don't have the discipline to not do it. It's like when you walk by an open garage and stealing something from the inside because you know you can get away with it. Maybe not so much today because of Ring doorbell and all that nonsense, but um, it's just like that, walking by an open car and stealing what's on the inside. You're taking the opportunity to get some that break the law because you know you probably won't get caught. That is not good behavior either. You know, you're sacrificing your integrity, and maybe you could get caught and go to jail or get in trouble. And then the seven deadly sins. Seven deadly sins are the gateway to evil and self-enslavement. So once you start to have too many violations, once you get comfortable in crossing those boundaries, whether it be pride, greed, whatever, I can't remember all the seven deadly sins at the moment. Gluttony, lust, what's it called, wrath, etc. It makes it too easy to commit other crimes. I don't know how to tell people not to do bad shit. I don't want to judge them. I think I've tried to explain where I've done my own dirt. I think I regret almost all of it, if not all of it. I'd like to share some more stories, but where there are victims involved and they know me and I know them, I don't want to put anybody on blast. I'll try to think of some better examples that I can share so that I can demonstrate that I'm not immune and I'm not judging anybody, and I'm trying not to be a hypocrite on here, outlining all these bad things. But as I've grown up and I've been able to do better, to be disciplined, to not hurt other people, my life has only improved. Not only my life, but the life of others around me. And I'll even take it a step further. Not only can I carry my own weight, but I've been able to, at least in my opinion, help others when they're in a time of crisis. So I wouldn't be able to do that if I was only looking out for my own self-interest, if I was operating out of a dark space, etc., etc. I hope you enjoy that. We'll do episode number, I think we're on number 29 next time. And we're going to talk about some more darkness. We're going to talk some more shit. Talk to you later.